would like to chat about Google Photos today. Reason being, Google Photos is something that's obviously mentioned and used a lot. And those who know me, they know that I don't like Google Photos at all, and I don't recommend using it for your photos. Having said that, it has, of course, its place, and I'll get to that, and I'll share how I personally use Google Photos for my own photo collection. But I'd like to share a little bit more about the ways, a lot of people use it and what the risks are with that. So first of all, Google Photos, obviously, it's out there. Pretty much everyone knows about it. It's free. However, it comes at a price anyway. We might not pay cash, and I'll get to that in a moment again. But because it's free, it's obviously very tempting to use, and it's very easy to use to set it up. And so what I'm talking about is on your phone, you take a photo, and if you've got Google Photos on, it goes straight into Google Photos, as well as obviously it still sits on your camera roll. So it's really easy. You basically don't have to lift a finger to have your photos sent into Google Photos. And they say it's syncing and backing up. And yes, that is, I can't say it's not true. However, the quality of the backup is not what you might actually want for your photos. So what Google Photos does, first of all, is data mining. So what that does, it's basically sort of Big Brother watching you. It learns about you, it analyzes the photos. Obviously, that's not a person sitting there and doing that. It's all in the algorithms, in the system. And Google Photos is very, very powerful in that. And those who use Google Photos, they know that you can, for example, search for beach in your Google Photos, and all your beach photos come up without you actually having ever added a keyword or a tag that says it's beach. So it finds it. It's becoming more intelligent. And because Google Photos is basically the biggest photo database, it can compare your photos with other people's photos. You can't do that, obviously. You've got your settings and your privacy settings, so you can't access other people's photos, but Google can in the background. So that's why they know if you have a photo from a specific address and that's somehow in the photo, it will possibly suggest another person who's got the same or a similar photo. This was taken there, but they might not have the geolocation on or anything like that. So, and they're like, how does Google know that? That's how they know. They data mine, they analyze what you put up there, how you behave. That's the reason why when you Google for, an example that comes to mind, I once Googled, I looked at trampolines for the kids, big ones for outside. And the next thing I know, everywhere I go on Facebook and whatnot, all these ads pop up about trampolines and where I can buy them. That's Google. That's data mining. They analyze me, they watch me, and then they proactively or reactively, really, they send me the information that they think I'm interested in. It works the same with the photos, and that's what makes it very, very powerful, obviously, because it compares your photos with billions of other photos, and it finds, things that are the same or similar. So that's the data mining, and that's just the way it is with anything Google. And I'm not necessarily saying that's really, bad. It's simply the way it is, and I just think it's good to be mindful of that and good to know about that. And having said all that, I still use Google because, okay, if they want to watch me, so be it. I can't really change that, and there's not many options, to be honest, either. So it's something to be mindful of, I think, and good to understand how that works. Now, another thing, as I mentioned before, it is free. And these days you can actually also pay for Google Photos if you want to make sure that Google Photos stores your original sized files. Because if you're on a free plan, what it does, it compresses the files. Not much, really. It's probably even probably not even visible with your bare eye. I haven't tried it, to be honest, but it's known that, and they actually say that it's all in the small print, which nobody reads, right? So they compress them slightly, and you don't keep the original in the cloud. Now, if you change to a paid plan and you store original photos, it's important to know that when you change today to a paid plan, it will upload all your new photos in original size, but it will not obviously go back. If you've already got 20,000 photos in there and they have been compressed, that's the way they are. You can't change it back, even if you go on a paid plan. So that would be as of today. That's important to know as well. Now, another thing that I feel is good to know, they say it's backing up and synchronizing. So let's talk about synchronizing and backing up for just a quick moment to be very clear on that. So backup is something that goes one way. You've got your photo or any digital file really, and you back it up. That means you create a copy in one way or another, and you send it somewhere. So that's one way. And unless you have to restore from that backup, you're not going to touch that, right? Now, synchronizing is different in that it's like a cycle. So you take a photo, it goes up to the cloud, it comes down somewhere else on a different device. But if you delete the photo on that different device, it goes back up to the cloud and down to your phone again. So whatever you do, it's a two-way street, and it all talks together, so to speak. And that's synchronizing, and that is not the same as backing up, because you can actually, delete stuff and then it's gone everywhere. So that's not a backup. That's not the same thing. Now, if look, that's the tricky thing with Google Photos. It actually synchronizes. So when you have turned that on and you take a photo on your phone, it's in your camera roll on the phone and in Google Photos. If you now delete it off Google Photos, it will also be deleted in your camera roll. So the two actually talk together. So it's synchronizing. It's not necessarily a backup. So this is something to be aware of, because I have had people saying, okay, I constantly, I run out of space on my phone. So I deleted these photos to make space, but now they've disappeared in my cloud too. And that doesn't only happen with Google Photos for that matter, but it's just the fact that oftentimes it's not very clear whether people synchronize or back up. And unfortunately, oftentimes businesses tell people you're backing up, but in reality, they're actually synchronizing, and that's just not the same thing. And then they lose photos, unfortunately. So it's good to know, look at your settings really, really well, be clear and find out what exactly is happening. Always try before you upload 30,000 photos. So, but I'll get to that later. If you want to use it, how do you use it in a good way? So I talked about data mining, about the difference between syncing and backing up, about the compression. Also in terms of backing up. So as we said before, a backup is a copy that hopefully you never need. But if you ever do have to restore from a backup, that means yeah, you get that down from the backup again. Now, Google Photos, if that's your only backup where your photos sit and you have to restore from there, they make it really hard because you can't simply select all the 20,000 photos and download them to your computer. That's not going to work. What you would have to use is Google Takeout. That's an additional, like an extension. It's free, doesn't cost anything at the moment. And I think it collects 500 photos at a time, and you download a zip folder. But the thing is, it doesn't download them or, grab them into these folders by 500 in a chronological way or anything like that. They're just going to be totally mixed up. It doesn't go by albums, if you use Google Photos, you know that you can create albums. All that information is completely lost. So they make it really, really hard to actually restore. So another reason I don't regard that as a backup at all. Having said that, it's better than nothing. But there are different, there are definitely better ways to back up your photos. Now, there was another one I wanted to mention. Let me just check. Yes, talking about taking them out of Google Photos, I've just mentioned you would lose any structure that you have made within Google Photos, all these albums, you can't transfer that in any way. Also, you would know that you can tag people. So it finds people, it uses facial recognition, which is great. But that information, it's not embedded into the photo in any way. So if you download a photo from Google Photos, it will have lost any information that you might have added in Google Photos. And again, that's not from the point of view of a professional photo manager or organizer. This is not best practice. This is not what we want. If that works for you and you're aware of how it all works and you say, okay, I can live with that, that's fine for me, that's fine. I'm not, and I know a lot of people use it like that. I just wouldn't recommend it. Now, what do I like about Google Photos? What I like is the sharing option. And I'm going to share in a moment how I use Google Photos. And this is exactly what I use it for. I use it to share. And also what I really like about it, and, I've seen, and I'm working with a lot of different programs and software, and Google Photos just makes it fun. They create these moments for you, as others do, iCloud Photos does the same or similar thing, but it can't draw from such a huge database because it's only drawing on the information of your own photos and not the whole world, basically. So this is what I like about it. Now, how do I use it personally? Now, my personal photo collection is managed in something called Adobe Lightroom, which is not exactly an easy program to learn. And it's also not quite cheap, but this would absolutely be my favorite photo management program, also because it is completely independent. Now, I manage all my photos in Lightroom, in Adobe Lightroom, and the way it works, it's basically a folder structure, which obviously doesn't sound very attractive. Plus, that sits on my computer in my office. Now, I don't necessarily feel the need to look at my complete photo collection at all times on my phone, but it's still cool to have, really. So what I do, and Lightroom, you can get different plugins that's like little extensions and little apps that work with Lightroom. I have automated it that when I put my photos, after I've you know, added keywords and renamed them and all that. When it's all done, processed, I put them in a folder, and I've got that little piece of software watching that folder. And as soon as I add new photos, it will send them to Google Photos. So that way I can access my photo hub on my phone using Google Photos. What I don't do though is I don't upload my phone photos to Google Photos, because I have turned off synchronizing and backing up. So when you turn that off, you can still access Google Photos because it's, you know, it's in the cloud, and most people use it to send phone photos to Google Photos, but you can actually also upload photos from your desktop computer or from anywhere really to Google Photos, and then you can see them on the phone. And I really like that because, first of all, I can see all my photos. I don't have to use the paid plan because I've got my original photos on my Mac desktop safely backed up. So this is purely for sharing purposes, and for that it's good enough. I don't need full quality. I don't need 5 megabyte big files. It's cool if they're a bit smaller, so that doesn't matter. This is how I use it, and then it makes it really easy to share photos, to have some fun, and it still creates these fun memories, and I can create albums knowing that, you know, it's pretty much useless. It's just really for fun because I have it all sorted on my desktop and not in the cloud. So this is how I use it, and that's also how I recommend my clients to use it if they you know, have their photo hub on their computer or on an external drive. There's nothing that why shouldn't they share their whole collection on Google Photos, but just in a different way than with the automatic synchronizing and backing up from the phone. Now, I've got a few questions there. Just let me check that. Joey, what would be the alternative approach to getting your photos off your phone for Android users? And I have a lot of work to do. Okay. Yes, I know it's very overwhelming because we've got thousands and thousands of photos. So an alternative approach, really, generally, any cloud service, whether you use Android or iPhones, any cloud should, let me put it that way, your photo hub, where you're, let's call it master file, your original photo, this is where your photo hub, that they sit there, your original photos sit in your photo hub. Now that photo hub should never be in the cloud. That should be on your Mac top. Oh my God, it's too early in the morning. That should be on your computer, or if you don't have enough storage space on your computer, it should sit on an external hard drive. And obviously that should be backed up at least twice. And I'm talking about that in an older Facebook Live about how to back up using the 3-2-1 method. And you can also download a freebie. I might put the link in the notes later once we've finished the Facebook Live. I'll add a link there to a backup guide, so that might help you too. But that's only a side note with the backup. So your hub should sit on your computer or an external drive. You need to be in the driver's seat there because you can't rely on the cloud. The cloud is not yours. They can do whatever they want to do with that cloud. You don't have any power. They can shut it down tomorrow and poof, it's gone. Look, it's known that even though these companies, they back up as well, but it is known when you only have to Google and you will find cases where the companies couldn't restore what people had in the cloud and it was gone for good. So you can't rely on that. I love the cloud for two things. I like it to transfer photos or files easily from one device to another or to synchronize. So, you know, like things like Dropbox and things like that. I really like that. It's an easy way to transfer and synchronize. The other way is, yes, I use the cloud to backup too, but to a specific backup service, which is called Backblaze. And again, it's a one-way, it's not the synchronizing. So in principle, to get back to the questions, as an alternative, what I always recommend, so you have your hub on your computer. What you do is you offload the photos from your phone or from your camera into that hub, and that's where your original sits. You can still leave your photos on the phone if you want them there, or you can delete them once you've transferred them. This is what I do. I never have in my camera roll at the moment. I think I've got about 70 photos, because when I move them over to my hub, they can go on the phone. And because once I've processed them in the hub, as I mentioned before, I share them to Google Photos, and that's how I can access them on the phone. I don't need to access them through my camera roll. It's like two different things. And Google Photos is one way to do that. You could also use other services in the cloud to share your photos to another one, but that's a paid one, is SmugMug, and that's a really good one because it actually keeps the metadata that you add, all the keywords and, you know, the star ratings and descriptions and stuff like that. If you use SmugMug in the cloud, that is all maintained. It doesn't strip it like Google Photos does. So that would be my answer to that, to actually get these photos off your phone and save them on your computer. Now, I want to, okay, just saw another question. Joey, to confirm your hub is Lightroom. Yes, my hub is sitting in Lightroom. That's correct. And it's a great software. And originally, I have to say though, Lightroom is of course that's built to also edit photos and retouch and manipulate and whatnot. It's not like Photoshop. It cannot do all that. It works differently. It's built differently, but it's actually also really, really good for organizing photos. Another good product that is free, and I will talk about that. I'm actually thinking of maybe doing a little course about it because there doesn't seem to be courses about it. Adobe Bridge. Again, an Adobe product. All you need is an Adobe account, which is free, and Bridge is actually free. So you can download that. And if you work in a folder structure, be it on Windows or Mac, doesn't matter. It's just a nicer view to work with your photos rather than clicking through all these folders. If you've got a bit of a better view, you can easily, batch, add keywords, you can sort them, you can do virtual albums and whatnot. So this is a really, really good product as well. And it's, again, you're independent. It's just in a simple folder structure then. So yeah, Lightroom is good. I think I forgot what I wanted to add before, but I think I probably said all that there is to say about Google Photos. Now, to sort of finish it off, my tip would be generally, and not just for Google Photos, but specifically for Google Photos and anything Google related, read the small print, know what you do. And again, I'm not saying don't use it. It always depends on the purpose, why you're using it and how you're using it. But it's important to understand how it works exactly. And my top tip there would be, before you do anything, and that's a general tip as well, try it with a few photos, with maybe 10, 20, even 100 photos, but don't go and, change settings and then, use 35,000 photos not knowing what you're doing. So try it on a smaller scale first if you can, and be really sure to know what you're doing before you click yes or no, or tick a box or something. So that would be my tip, to really try things out. And also, you know, if you happen to watch that video at the end of 2020, things might have changed. So please double check before you do anything and find out how it works, because things change all the time in that IT world, and it's sometimes a bit hard to keep up. But I'm trying to help a bit with that and let you know what's new and what works and what doesn't. So also I wanted to tell you that if you don't know, I'm running a podcast together with Fiona from the Photo Helper here in Melbourne as well. She specialises in scanning. If you ever need help with scanning, go approach her. And in our podcast, it's called DIY Photo Organising, and you'll find it on iTunes or Spotify, or simply go to my website. It's all linked. But go to episode 21. That will actually, it's called Manage Your Photos Using Your Android Phone and Google Photos. And we had a guest from America talking about that, who specializes in Google Photos. Hale is her name. And she shares her wisdom with us and our listeners about Google Photos and Android. So, Joey, this one's for you. Go back and check that one out. Maybe there's a few more helpful tips in there that might be good to know. So I'll just hang in there for another minute or so to see whether there's any other there's more questions. Thanks, Angela. Yeah, trying to. As I said, it's sometimes hard to keep up. So thank you. And thanks, Joey. Your podcasts are great, he's saying. Wonderful. Yeah, I'm glad you like them. And it's actually, today is Friday, so we're coming out with a new episode today. Check it out, and we'll talk about photos that do not belong into a photo hub. So what can you delete, or what can you move out? You know, things like screenshots and stuff like that. So we are usually going live at 4 p.m. on Fridays with our podcast, so check that one out. Now, there doesn't seem to be any more questions, and always feel free to add questions later in the comments. And as I said, I will share a couple of links that I mentioned. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the next one. Take care. See you guys.